Welcome to Impact OC, the only program showcasing the people and organizations shaping Orange County. With your host, Don Camber.
Hello, live from the OC Talk Radio studios at UCI's Beal Applied Innovation Center. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Don Camber with another great guest positively impacting our community. Today I welcome 23-year pancreatic cancer survivor Roberta Luna. She advocates for the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, known as PanCan, and its mission to fight pancreatic cancer. Roberta also hosts the weekly OC Talk Radio podcast, Living Hope, Your Journey with Pancreatic Cancer. She's encouraging participation in the PanCan Purple Stride Orange County on Saturday, April 26th at the Angel Stadium of Anaheim. The event is among 60 Purple Stride events across the country. Thank you, Roberta, for being on Impact OC.
Thank you, Don, for having me back. I don't know if I can count how many times I've been here, but I appreciate every year, so thank you so much.
Roberta, please tell us your pancreatic cancer story of how you discovered you had the disease, living with it, and your determination to help others.
Yeah, it was actually my dad became ill in 1998, I want to say, and I had never seen him sick a day in his life. I never even saw him take an aspirin. He never even missed a day of work. But he was displaying some kind of discomfort in the stomach area, but we weren't really, concerned about it because he'd been in a minor car accident in December. He hit some black ice going to the airport to come and visit us over Christmas. He lived in New Mexico. So we just kind of attributed it to that fact. But by the time March came around, he always wanted to celebrate his anniversary with my mom. And they usually made plans to go away, and he wasn't feeling up to it. And so we were kind of concerned and trying to get him to get to a doctor. And no offense to the male population here, but you know how difficult men can be to get into a doctor. And we just had to keep insisting that he go. And finally, I think he was just feeling so bad. He decided, he finally went in. They were doing some tests, but they really couldn't find out what was going on with him. They thought gallstones, that didn't work, or no hernias, no, anything like that. And finally, I think it took him a few months to finally figure out that he had pancreatic cancer. So they thought, well, we can do some surgery, go in and remove the tumor. And told us, the surgery was quite lengthy. I think they were going to try to do a Whipple. And the surgery could be from eight hours or more, and said, if you want to go home, go home. But we decided to stay there and wait just to be close to him, And then when the doctor came back, about 20 minutes later, we thought, well, maybe it wasn't as bad as he thought. And noticed he wasn't really looking at us. He was kind of looking at the ground as he walked in. And my mom and I were sitting there, and Vic, my husband, was there. And, the doctor kind of took our hand and said, I'm sorry, it's pancreatic cancer, and it's everywhere, and there's nothing we can do. So we just closed him back up, and you can take him home, and we'll just keep him comfortable. And just hearing pancreatic cancer, for one, didn't even know what it was, but we thought, well, there has to be something they can do for cancer, right? Or chemo or something. And he said, no, you don't understand. It's everywhere, and there's just nothing left for us to do. So, we asked, I think, generally we always ask, well, how long do we think that person might have? And he said 3 to 6 months probably. And my dad was gone within 2 weeks. And I think, you ask because you want to put as much time, give them as much time as you can. And them living in New Mexico and us being in California, we drove down there every weekend to be with them and to help my mom and to see my dad. And, just to have that short period of time, it just seemed like, my dad knew we loved him, but I think we just wanted to make sure that he knew that. And to be kind of given a short time, it was really difficult. And then it was at my dad's memorial service that his older brother came up to me and said, that's what your grandma died from. Our mom, she died from pancreatic cancer. And I knew my grandma had cancer, but I had no clue. I was probably 8 or 9 when she died. And so coming home, I asked my doctor, I just found out that, my dad died from pancreatic cancer and his mom did as well. What do I need to be concerned about, or what should I watch for? And he looked at me and he said, well, hon, you don't need to worry about it. For one, you're too young. I was only in my 40s. He said it affects older people. And it's not hereditary, so I wouldn't worry about it. I wouldn't give it another thought. And so we didn't. I think we were confused as to how could this happen to my dad when he was never sick, never displayed anything. But we really just never gave it another thought until my dad's baby brother became ill and called me and told me, hey, Squirt, they're telling me it's pancreatic cancer and go home and put my house in order. And my uncle died within 2 weeks of being diagnosed. Sorry.
No.
So after that, I went back to the doctor again. I said, I just lost my third family member to pancreatic cancer, and I had actually gotten ill around October, November in 2001. I said, I'm really concerned now. What should I be looking for? And again, you told me, it's not hereditary, and you're too young. Let's just wait and see. I'm not good at just waiting and seeing. So I said, no. I saw my dad dwindle from 175 pounds to 70 pounds, and he was tall, so he looked very, what you would see, probably what you would think, of a Holocaust survivor is what he reminded me of. And I said, I don't want to put my family through that. We need to do something. So I pulled out my checkbook. This was the days when we still wrote checks, and, signed a blank check and gave it to him and said, do whatever you need to do, but I need some answers. So I think he was just, thinking, well, it's not pancreatic cancer, but I'll appease her. And so we did a bunch of tests, and sadly, there's not one test they can do. They're all very invasive, so it's not just a simple blood test, but we did a bunch of tests. Came back on April 1st, and I looked at him, and he was doing the same thing my dad's doctor did. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at the floor when he walked in. He sat down, grabbed my hand, and said, well, I'm sorry. It's pancreatic cancer. You already know nobody survives this from your family history, but let's start chemotherapy. So we started chemotherapy the next week. And it was rough. I've never been through anything like that before, and it was just...
Describe what you went through.
Well, for one, it's not an easy procedure. They hook you up to a machine I was there for 8 hours a day, and then coming off of it, you're very tired. But then I had a lot of issues as far as nausea, throwing up, don't want to be too graphic, but diarrhea. It was just not a pleasant thing. I had a lot of discomfort and couldn't really go anywhere. I had to pretty much stay home because I didn't know, when I was going to throw up again, or, how it was going to be. So it was very life-changing, but it wasn't just life-changing for myself. It was life-changing for my family as well. But one thing I think I do want to express, and I've said this a few times, is after the doctor told me I had pancreatic cancer, I went to my car and turned on the car, and Bob Marley was singing, "Don't worry about a thing, every little thing is going to be all right." And from that day on, it was just like, I know he wasn't singing to me, but it felt like it, and it gave me a message, and I decided from there, I'm going to fight it. And I didn't go through, they say there's 5 steps that you usually go through after a diagnosis, and I didn't go through any of those steps. It wasn't why me, it wasn't, trying to make a deal with God or anything. It was just the fact that I've got to do whatever I can so that I'm not the statistic that doesn't survive. I have to be on the survival side.
What were your symptoms?
I had lost a lot of weight, and it was just before, it was in October. I wasn't able to keep any food down. Even water was difficult, no appetite, very tired. And I had some discomfort, but it wasn't anything I could really, put a thing on and say it was hurting in that area. Just some overall discomfort, and just the fact that I just couldn't keep anything down. Even water was difficult to take. But unfortunately, because of the symptoms, they are so vague that they can be anything. My doctor thought at first that maybe it was my gallbladder, but I had to remind him that was removed some years earlier. So it definitely wasn't the gallbladder. But, they look at, it could just be anything with your stomach issues, or, ulcers or anything like that. But it didn't feel like, it felt different. It was just something I couldn't put my finger on. And then having, knowing what my uncle went through, but the difficult thing was my dad and my uncle didn't complain. So I really didn't know what to look for, and I didn't know what they were feeling. So I wasn't sure, if it was just the flu that was hanging in, or what was going on. But it went on for way too long. And like I said, after seeing what my dad went through, I couldn't put my family through that. And I had to know what we were dealing with so we could move on.
Was your dad able to live life for the 2 weeks prior to his death?
Not really. It was difficult. He pretty much was bedridden, and again, he couldn't really keep any food down either. And he refused to take any pain medicine if we were there, because he wanted to be awake. And he could talk with us and stuff, but as far as being as active, he was pretty active in his garden and liked working on his car and stuff, and he wasn't able to do any of that. But he was able to hold a conversation, and, I think what we were told is the nurse said that she thinks that he waited until he knew we were home safe, because once he knew we were home, that's when he let go, and he passed that not long after we'd returned home. But yeah, his life was pretty much not what he was used to, and he wouldn't have wanted to live that way.
What about your uncle?
My uncle was, I think he worked pretty much up until the last few days, and then it just hit him so hard and so fast that, like I said, he was gone within 2 weeks after being diagnosed as well.
What's the survival rate?
The survival rate right now is 13%, which has come a ways. I mean, when I was diagnosed, it was only 4%. And I'm glad to see it, improve, of course, but I'm not happy about it. I mean, 13% when, we're still one of the lowest cancers survival rate. Something's got to change. We've got to do something. It's the third leading cancer, and it's expected to go to the second in the next year or two, I believe.
What are the number of people who are diagnosed every year?
I believe this year it was 67,000 diagnosed, and 52,000 will die. And that's just, to me, that's unacceptable. Like I said, I'm thankful that we are at least finally in the double digits, because we were at the single digits for so many years. But we're one of the cancers that is still on the rise, where most cancers you're seeing a decline. Pancreatic cancer is still on the rise. Still more people are being diagnosed and more people are dying from it.
Is there any particular risk factors for getting it?
There are risk factors, but sometimes I hate even saying that, because I don't want somebody to feel like they're to blame for getting it. But it's just like with any other cancer. They say smoking, alcohol, obesity, onset new diabetes could be a risk factor as well. And it's, but is it your lifestyle, or is it maybe what's out there in the atmosphere? It's really hard, because only about, I'd say, 10% is hereditary. And so the rest, a lot of them is, they never know. I mean, it could be genetic, hereditary, but a lot of times somebody gets it and there's just no reasoning. They don't know why.
What are the misconceptions about pancreatic cancer?
Wow, misconceptions, for one, is because of a bad lifestyle. And again, I hate to put that out there. And I don't want somebody to feel like I should have been doing something, because like I said, I've known people that have lived, if you want to say, the perfect life. They don't smoke, they don't drink, they eat properly, they diet and exercise. They die from pancreatic cancer. And then you have somebody else who eats, drinks, whatever they want, and they're fine. But they do say lifestyle can be, again, it can also be from, what's out there in the air. And again, is it genetic? Is it hereditary? So that is one. Another one is, it's so rare, I don't need to worry. It's something that they consider it rare in a sense, because when you look at overall cancers, like maybe breast cancer, you might be looking at 300,000. And then when you're looking at pancreatic, you're looking at 67,000. So that's why they consider it rare. But it's something that if you're having the slightest symptoms, you know your body the best. You need to really listen to that and work on that, and not let somebody just tell you, that not to worry about it. And then the symptoms in themselves can be any other illness. So you could have a backache. Some people present with a backache, and that could be maybe where the tumor itself is located. So there's a lot of issues with it, the diarrhea, the vomiting, losing weight. It's just not something that you can pinpoint and say, oh yeah, it must be pancreatic cancer.
Now you're lucky. You've been living with it for 23 years. That's a rarity, correct?
Excuse me. I've met, in fact, like I was speaking earlier, I met a gentleman. He's a 25-year survivor. And there's one that I understand is a 35-year survivor. I'd like to get in touch with him as well and just talk with him. But you don't see a whole lot of, unfortunately, long-term survivors. But there are some out there, so I want to give people hope. There's even, you were considered, like if you had a stage 4 pancreatic cancer, you were doomed. That's not true either. We have many survivors who are stage 4, and they're surviving, they're thriving. They like to use the word thriving rather than surviving, so I'll honor them with that and say they're thriving and doing well.
Purple Stride Orange County will be occurring April 26th at the Angel Stadium of Anaheim. Explain what will be going on.
Well, Purple Stride is really an amazing event. It's a chance for all of us to get together and remember those that we've lost. We don't want to forget anybody as well, because we need to celebrate their life as well. But it's a way to really honor our survivors that are out there and come together as a family, because it's a type of disease that when you get it, like you said, people think it's rare and you don't hear a lot of survivors. So when you first are diagnosed, you feel kind of alone. So this is a way for everybody to kind of get together. Yes, we raise funds, but we bring awareness, and we just have that family feel that I'm not alone. There's others out here with me. So when you come, you're going to come into Purple Stride, and I believe the village opens at 7:30. You're going to enter through the balloon arch, and before you do that, you're going to get your T-shirt. And if registration is actually free, but if you are raising $50 or do a self-donation of $50, then there's an event T-shirt that you can get. So you'll get your T-shirt, go into the village. You can go to the different sponsors that we have there, visit with them and talk to them. There's a memory or a tribute wall that you can sign, either for somebody you've lost or for a survivor. You want to put a memory or something on there, you can do that. Then we have a Purple Play Zone for the kids, and that's run by our Chapman University students. And they do an amazing job. They sometimes do some kind of experiments, or they always do something really interesting with the kids. So it's a great event. There's, a place you can go take photos. Then we have our guest speakers who are there for inspiration. We always have a survivor speaker who is really inspirational and gives a great message. And it's just a great event to come out and talk with and meet other people. This year we have Coach Sudsy returning. He's with the Anaheim Ducks, and he'll be coming back, and the Anaheim Ducks are a community sponsor, so they'll be out there with their team, and I imagine their cheering squad and everything will be out there. So it's a lot of fun. It really is. I know it sounds odd to come to an event like that and have fun, but you really do. You have a lot of fun and meet a lot of people.
How long is the walk?
I believe it's 1.5 miles, I want to say. And if you want to do it, you can loop it again because you're going through the stadium. So if you want to do more than that, you can. But if you just want to do the small walk, you can do that as well.
And you've been part of it for many years. How do you feel being part of it?
Yeah, Vic and I started, we were the first Purple Stride chairs back in 2009, I believe. And it's just to see that sea of purple every year, it gets better and better. It's really hard to kind of put into words, but you just see all these people in purple, and it's just really, it just blows my mind, and really it's emotional. And then to see the survivor group grow every year, it's amazing. The first year we had 5 survivors, and one year we've had up to 30, and I think right now we're looking at 25 that have registered so far. So to see the number of survivors increase, it just makes you feel like all the hard work you've been putting into and everything you're doing, at least is finally paying off, and you're seeing it, the results.
So who participates?
Everybody. We have researchers, we have doctors, we have medical staff, we have children, we have elderly people, we have young people, teams. We have, I don't remember how many teams we have right now, but I think we're looking at maybe 800 participants right now. We're expecting somewhere around 1,200, which is our usual. So anybody can come. There's, wheelchair accessible, stroller. The only thing, unfortunately, we love our pets, but we can't bring our dogs, unfortunately. But it does, you can, if you're in a wheelchair or a walker or, in a stroller, then you can do it as well. So it's for anybody and everybody.
Now you host your Living Hope show. Explain your show and what you get out of it.
Our show, and I have to give you a shout out and a thank you, and Paul as well, because I know sometimes he wasn't sure what we were doing, but I do appreciate giving that opportunity. And it was, in fact, when the opportunity was actually given to me, to be honest with you, I had never done a pod show until I did yours, a podcast. Yours was the first one I'd ever done. So when that opportunity was offered, I jumped in and said, yeah, sure, we'll do it. And then I'm like, wait a minute, what's a podcast? What do I need to do? I think if you would have told me how much work really went into it, I don't know if I might have thought a little harder on it, but I really loved doing it. I loved doing the work, and I wasn't going to host it at first. It wasn't something I thought I wanted to do. I thought, I can get the guest and do all the research, but let Paul do the hosting of it. And then I had somebody tell me, no, you really need to give it a shot. And Paul encouraged me, and you encouraged me. So I thought, okay, fine, I'll do it. And then I loved it. And it was like, I just didn't expect to have that feeling. And even though all of our stories don't end the way we wanted them to, we take away something from every one of them. There's something positive in all of them, or something that we've learned. And, I hope that if, the people listening get good resources or understand that they're not alone, and if it helps anybody, then how difficult the journey was, it really is worth it. But I really loved doing it, and I was trying to remember how long we've been doing. I think we're going to be going into either our 3rd or 4th year in May. So I just didn't expect to be able to have as many guests. I thought I'd be having to think, oh my God, who am I going to get next week? Because, who wants to talk about pancreatic cancer, right? Who wants to listen to it? But the guests have been, coming to me and saying, we want to come on, we want to talk about this, or we want to do this. So, and everybody I've approached, I've only had one person tell me no, and it was because it was just too emotional for them. which I understand and I respected. But something I learned just recently, I got an email saying that, I guess if you Google what are the top podcasts I should listen to about pancreatic cancer, we came into number 4.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Out of 10 that they did, which surprised me because we were the newest one. We also had the less, amount of people listening. But the information, they said that, the resources were great and it was an uplifting show. And so that made me very happy to come into that and find out that. So, and I think we've gotten some great comments, some emails about shows and stuff that people want to hear again or want to know more about. So I haven't really gotten anything negative. So, but if there's something out there that we can do that people want to hear, then they can reach out and we'll do the best we can to do that.
The name of the show is
Living Hope, Your Journey with Pancreatic Cancer.
And talk about PanCan.
PanCan, or the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, has been around. They just celebrated their 25th anniversary, and we had the founder, Pamela Marquardt, on, as well as Julie Fleischman, the president and CEO. I have chemo brain still, so sometimes things lapse. But so it was a great show to have them come on and talk about what they've done for the last 25 years. But it was the first organization that I knew about. I know there's other great ones out there now that we've had on. Let's Win we've had on, and Hirschberg we've had on. But PanCan was the first one that I ran across. It's because I had met Pam on the Johns Hopkins board when my dad was diagnosed and trying to get information. So they've been really great. They have a great patient services that people can reach out to, and they'll get information. There's no charge for any information the patient needs. They have, if you want to look at a clinical trial, they'll help you find clinical trials. If you need help with the doctors, they don't recommend any one doctor, but they'll give you a list, and then you can go from there and see, who best fits you. And they do it by experience, by who's done a lot of Whipples or have had a lot of pancreatic cancer patients.
Is there something similar among survivors that you all go through?
Survivor guilt, for one, I think. And just, I think that would probably be the biggest one. A lot of us are always wondering, and sometimes people ask, well, why are you surviving and my loved one didn't? And it's a tough question. And it's never, it's not something I have an answer for. All I can say is God still wants me here for a reason to do something. And maybe, I guess the podcast was it, is to hopefully bring awareness, bring some inspiration, let people know that they're not alone, and whatever you feel, and, it's okay. It's, you have a bad day, it's, you can have that bad day, but reach out to us and talk to us if you need to. We're here for that. So
share some stories from some survivors.
We have, he's stage 4, and I always refer to him quite a bit because he was very active. He was a bike rider and very active, and got stage 4 pancreatic cancer, which most people would automatically say would be a death sentence. Well, he's still surviving or thriving, and he's back on the bike now. And he actually does host a survivor group, and sometimes I think caregivers do it every Friday. And in the morning he does a Zoom. So there's, he's taken something negative and made something very positive about it. And I have another survivor who was a stage 4 as well. He's had the Whipple, and he's back doing golfing and very active life. We have survivors who have jumped. I like to skydive.
Yes, you did that. What was that like when you did that?
Oh man, I was so scared and nervous. But it was like, it's a feeling you really can't explain. I mean, you're sitting there, and when they open the door, you get this burst of freezing cold air, and it just kind of takes your breath away. But as you're going down, and they tell you, okay, we're going to count to 3. They never get to 3, and it's 1, 2, and you're out the door. But it's just, and I always refer to it as, it's the closest I can get to God without really being there. But it's just so surreal, and I feel if I can do that, because we're usually about 13,000 feet up in the air, and I feel like if I can do that, I am tandem, so I'm tied with somebody, but there's no net or anything to catch me if anything goes wrong. And I feel like if I can do that, pancreatic cancer can't touch me. And what I've been very proud of, the last 3 jumps, I've actually landed on my feet and not on my rear. So I was really happy to finally be a foot lander. So, but it's just an amazing experience. We do it yearly, usually in April. We're not able to do it this April. We may do it later in the year, but we always try to get somebody who's never jumped before and a survivor, and another survivor who's passed, Lupe Romero. Her and I are the ones that got this together. She found out that I wanted to skydive and looked me up, and we started doing it yearly. So, and we we've been doing it in her honor since she passed as well. But she was a longtime survivor and been through many cases with pancreatic cancer, many reoccurrences. So it's just an event that we love doing, in a way, sounds crazy, I know, to celebrate life.
How does it feel flying in the air?
It's just to be, well, for one, to get up there to jump, it takes about 15-20 minutes, and you're not in the most comfortable plane as it is. You're really close to your tandem person, and the plane shakes. People say, why are you jumping out of a perfectly good plane? There's nothing perfectly good about it, I'll tell you right now. It's uncomfortable, it's rickety. You really can't wait to get out of it, but once you do, it's just like it doesn't last long enough. The fall doesn't last long enough. I wish it lasted as long as it does to take up there, to do it. But it's very fast, and it's just I wish it were longer. But it's just so surreal. It's hard to explain unless you do it. It's really hard to put in words.
Do you think about your pancreatic cancer when you're up there?
Not really. I don't. But like I said, when I'm first doing it, it's like if I can do it, I can jump out. Then it can't touch me. So. Maybe that's probably the freest I feel, because it's not in my mind. It's just up there looking around and looking at God's creation and just taking it all in and just being happy, because everybody on the plane is happy for you. And, my tandem guy, I've had the same one for the last 5 years, and he's great. He even let me steer last time, so it was really nice. But, yeah, like I said, it encourage anybody who wants to join me next time we do it to do it, because it's an amazing experience. And we have a big crowd support group that come that don't jump. They say, no, we're going to leave our feet on the ground. But they tape it and think we're crazy, but they come out and celebrate with us. And then we go to dinner. So it's a really great time.
Talk about, again, Purple Stride, Orange County on April 26th at the Angel Stadium, Anaheim.
Yeah, I encourage, you can go to, it's purplestride.org/OC. Register. Like I said, registration is free. If you want an event t-shirt, then you just need to either self-donate or raise $50. If you raise $1,000, you become a member of what's called the Grand Club, and you get a special sweatshirt or t-shirt, a hoodie, whatever they're doing for the year. And it's just a great way to come out and celebrate and meet others. Especially if you're just newly diagnosed, come out and meet all the survivors and talk with them. And I think it's a great help for them to hear from others that, yeah, we do survive. So I can't recommend it highly enough to come out, spend the day with us.
And the website again is?
purplestride.org/OC.
And the money goes to?
To research and for patient services.
And is that what led to the increase in the survival rate? Raising money?
Well, yes, because we have to have the funding to get the scientists, to get in there and do the clinical trials, or to do the research that's needed. Without money, before we were getting anything, the survival rate was very low. And I think the reason we saw survivors increase is because of funding for research. Most of our funding comes from the government, but we do have a lot of private funding as well. But the majority comes from the government, and we were kind of hit hard this year with the funding being cut. For cancer in general was 57% has been cut, but for pancreatic cancer we had our own research program, and we're getting nothing this year. And that really, when I was told that, I think I felt the same as if somebody had just told me I had pancreatic cancer. It was like a punch in the gut, and it's just so important to donate. It doesn't, whatever you can afford to do is going to help. So, but now is the time that we really need to talk up about this and speak loudly and make sure our representatives understand how we feel, and that this is not acceptable. We cannot cut this research. I just don't understand.
Do you wake up every day thinking you've been living with pancreatic cancer, or do you go days and not think about it?
Well, I think I mentioned earlier, I've kind of changed my attitude a little bit. I no longer live with pancreatic cancer. It lives with me. I know that's not true, of course, but that's my mental thinking for right now to help me get through it. But there are days I don't think about it at all. But it's kind of hard not to, because most of my life is probably dedicated to bringing awareness and to doing something, especially now with the podcast. It's given me a great resource and a great arm out there in the community to talk about it and to bring awareness. I've been able to reach people not only here in California, but New York, and I also had somebody from London on the show one time. So it's been a great resource for me. So I I guess I pretty much do live with it every day in a sense, in that I work with it and want to bring the awareness. So I'm always doing something, but not in the same way as like if I was doing chemo. It's not the same thought process. So I guess I do think about it every day, just in a different way.
How can people listen to your podcast?
They can listen on octalkradio.net, I believe. It's on YouTube, and it's also on Facebook. And the older shows are coming up on the website. We have a website now too that we're working on, so you can get them there. But I think on Podbean or BeanPod and
It's Podbean.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
Again, I'll blame Chemo Babe. And it's on Spotify. It's on YouTube and Apple. Got something from Apple, that iTunes. It was on theirs, and Amazon actually sponsored or did a little gave us a little plug. So if you want to listen to this podcast, then they gave us a plug. So I think it's on any podcast that you can probably get it anywhere.
And you enjoy hosting it.
Yeah, I do. It's like I said, it's more work than I expected, but it's work that I want to do. I'm sure I can get somebody to do it, but I like doing the research and figuring out what we're going to talk about, and then doing the promotion for it. So it's been, I think, a good thing for me.
The event is April Purple Stride, Orange County. It'll be on Saturday, April 26th at the Angel Stadium of Anaheim. Thank you, 23-year pancreatic cancer survivor Roberta Luna, for being on Impact OC. And I thank everyone for tuning in. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Dawn Camber. Have an impactful day.
Okay, let's just leave it there, because I just